back, relax, the show is live. From the start straight to your vibe. AC Infinity, the name you trust. Cannabis talk, no need to fuss. Knowledge flows like a sweet blunt roll. High vibes and wisdom take control. Let's go from the stash. Highly educational. AC Infinity. Cannabis sensational.
Oh my gosh.
We made it.
Sorry, guys.
We made it.
We're here. And if you're watching this back, you know we made it and we survived.
We made it.
Oh my gosh.
If you're watching the vlog a week from now and you were wondering whether we made it or not, we made it.
We made it.
We're 2 hour and a half late, but we made it, ladies and gentlemen.
What a fiasco.
Wow. Welcome to highly educational, friends. This was a bit of a crapshoot. Let's just say the least, eh?
So,
Unplanned.
Long
You guys
story
look burnt.
short, long story short, Wink's breaking things. We're here. It wasn't easy, but we did it. And it was basically somehow, some way, somebody keeps coming up with funky shit every day. And we were white water rafting.
What
kind of.
happened?
Whitewater rafting.
All right, just before we
happened?
get deep into the show, because today we are going to have an amazing show tonight.
All
we
about
are going to be
cloning.
giving away
Great
some
show.
amazing propagation tents. Going to be a little different episode, as you see. We're all here in person, as maybe elephant in the room. We're in Canada together. Let me just do a quick, my boys.
Yeah.
My boys.
Let's go.
Let's go.
So it's the first you guys get to see it. You can put it like right in your face, and it's just
I'm
yours.
going to go to your settings. I'm going to make
Go
it
to
so
my
your
settings,
display
change it.
never shuts off.
So
wanna see the
tonight, though,
chat.
we have 2 propagation tents that we're going to be giving away, and 1 in the chat as well. We're going to be picking 2 of the very special winners at the end of tonight's episode at this point.
Stick around.
Stick around for that. And we're also going to be doing a live demonstration of cloning. P has a plant here that he wants to maintain the genetics of for the first time, I think,
For
ever.
the first time ever.
And we're going to be doing that, so make sure you stay tuned.
Yeah, shout out to everybody in the chat, man. We really appreciate you guys making it. Huge shout out to those that were waiting here an hour and a half ago, because believe it or not, at 3 o'clock when we kind of thought that we might not make it, there was 5 people waiting. So we wanted to give a huge shout out to you guys for tuning in. Huge shout out to ACI for putting us on. We appreciate you guys. This is highly educational. We've got a wicked show in store. I think we're going to be talking about cloning today. I think that's a great conversation because myself, as you mentioned, I don't utilize cloning nearly enough as much as I should, but as much as I could.
would like you to.
Yeah, as much as I could, right?
Because there's stuff like Chill Out OG that vanishes, and I'm like, brother, this
the
particular one.
Dreadnought, the Dead Ops, man, so many great ones that I wanted to share, but they're gone. But it's like, what can we do to try to preserve those genetics?
Propagation. This is why cloning is important.
Cloning. Yep. Clone the plant and keep those genetics around because, I've had so many incidents where it was like I wanted to keep the genetics, beautiful genetics, and then I failed to do the cloning part. So, and there are so many different ways to go about it, and we're going to go through them today. And you get to
this is it. This is the Chill Out
That's
OG.
what's left.
That's
yeah.
it.
This is it. I had about 3/4 of a pound of this stuff, and I've got maybe 2 ounces left.
I wanted to break into it,
Scary.
but I didn't.
Scary times. So, yeah, cloning. I think it's a wonderful conversation to have. I'm glad ACI is going to put us on. And as Rob mentioned, we're going to be doing a couple giveaways along the way. So stay tuned. Pay attention.
It's a different episode, though. We're not going to have the trivia like we normally would because we scrambled to get here.
Yeah.
Just real quick, we didn't really touch on exactly why. We were on the water.
Oh, yeah. We never finished our
No,
story.
we just jumped right into it.
Yeah, we didn't finish our story.
Planned to be back. We left at noon. Planned to be back by, 3?
Yeah.
It was the plan was 3.5 hours on the river
Turns out we were on the wrong river.
for 5 hours.
For
5
5
hours.
hours. And we had to
We weren't even a tenth of the way to the finish line.
not even close. And we ran out of beer and bud.
That's okay.
That
for
was one of the biggest.
we were fine until the realization of beer and weed was gone.
So
Literally,
we
it was
planned-
like all I heard was beer, mate.
Yeah.
All I heard was rubbish.
Oh, God.
And then I was like, okay. At first, we realized that there was a little bit of kind of panicked that we weren't going to make it, but we were like, we got beer and weed, boys. We're going to
We'll
be
be
just fine.
okay. We're gonna make the show because of this.
And then once we realized there was no beer and wine, it's like, pigeons paddle, boy,
Well, and plus
paddle.
we thought we were lost because like Pete just was gonna bring like a tracking device, and then we wound up in like the middle of nowhere, and the mud
We ended
is
up in
so
Hutterite
thick.
Colony.
We had mud up to our knees.
Bro, my waist.
Up to his
No
waist.
joke. I stepped in off of the water.
Never-ending story horse.
Whoop.
It was our tracks.
Right here. And I was like, okay, I've got us anchored, boys. And yeah.
We had to climb up this area, and there was
Quicksand.
barbed wire, right?
Covered
and we
in
had to
clay.
covered in clay, and we were through a field and some triberry. None of it was good.
It was about 200 meters from the river to the road, but we had to
I
go
don't even know
through
what
a
meters
cow
are.
pasture, over one barbed wire fence and an electric fence with an inflatable kayak, a raft, and two inflatable rafts, really.
It was supposed to be
Plus a
good.
cooler.
It was great until it wasn't, and I want to thank all you for
And
the
it
patience.
started raining.
And it started raining on us too.
So it got to the point where literally we're getting out of the water. My words to Rob were, okay, we're going to get out of this. I'm going to start working on a shelter. That's exactly what I said, because I didn't know how long it was going to take Mrs. P
Survivor
to get
bed.
there. I just all of a sudden I was like, you know what? It's funny how at a certain point you kind of got to kick into, okay,
Survival
this isn't
gear.
leisure anymore. If we just continue to leisure, we might not make it to AC Infinity's highly uneducated. Highly educational. Wow.
Highly uncensored and highly
Where's the
educational
mushrooms?
put together. So, sorry, a little bit different of a show like normal. But, so, back to the cloning portion. That's why we were late. Now, cloning plants can be done in a variety of ways. A lot of people think there's one and done, or you need a bunch of equipment to do it. But, honestly, I really feel one of the easiest ways to do it is by just using the little plugs, the Rockwell, or Root Riot was the one I used back in the day. Now I like organic plugs, and then put it right into a propagation station. And myself, AC Infinity's propagation unit, the cloner, is what I use. Simple and plain. I mean, having the extender side so I can put my plant in there that's a taller cut, and then I could still use the lighting on there. You don't need as heavy as lighting, obviously, but it's nice to use the propagation setup with a dome. But it's not the only way to do it. Now, a lot of people will swear also by aeroponics. Now, if people don't know what aeroponics is, maybe, Chris, you want to touch a little on aeroponic cloning at all?
Yeah, if you want to
wanna
kick
send
the
it
ball
to-
over to me,
kick it to
sure.
you.
Well, you've been using
I
it more
aeroponic
often.
clone, so maybe I should do it, but I
Yeah.
I was talking a lot. So aeroponic cloning, essentially, we're using an air pump and water instead of using a bubbler like bubble-ponics. Aeroponics, we're shooting water up and spraying the bottom of the root or the bottom of the stem, which then turns into roots. Those roots are going to be pretty much dripping into the water, but the oxygen consistently going is going to make it so that the roots can thrive. Oftentimes, you're going to need a water chiller, or you're going to need a large container to maintain that water temperature, or utilize sterilization because you can run into pathogens and bad bacteria if you're getting over 68 degrees Fahrenheit on a regular basis. It's 72, 73. Really warm is when you'll start seeing it, but you can get some pathogens at that point.
That's gonna be one of the fastest way to root, right?
Super
I mean,
fast.
you're looking at 5 to 7 days to get roots, and then from there, after that, you can transplant pretty quickly out of that. If you continue to let it in there for too long, well, then you're essentially growing hydroponically. You know what I mean? In like a deep water culture system, for example, if your roots get too long, they get tangled up in that
Dude,
system.
I've been there
right?
too many times. Yeah, you don't think about it. You go there and you look one day, you have little, what looks like teeth starting out at the bottom, and then all of a sudden they're long, lanky dreadlocks just hanging in there, and you don't know what to do. And it could wrap through there and be a real headache to deal with over time. That's why oftentimes when they start to get at least, let's say 3 inches, maybe 2 inches, you want to consider transplant at that point. Now, this being one fast way to clone, there is directly into the media as well, though. You don't necessarily have to do that.
Yeah, you could go that route. A question on aeroponic cloning, though, is so I actually just got one of those Clone King ones. It's like a 24 site, I believe, a box. And, my question for you is, do you just run straight water, or are you putting like a rooting hormone in there, such as like Clone X or any of the, any type of root, aloe, I think is.
Aloe.
Yeah.
That's usually what I'm going with is with aloe. So
Okay.
if you're not maintaining that temperature and you're not keeping it lower, you're going to have to use something like Clear Res or something else to sterilize the water. Now, when you're adding a hormone in there and you're doing that, not going to be the best idea. So you want to keep that temperature lower, then add something like aloe or a Clone X or some sort of rooting solution that can help. And oftentimes when you use something like a cloning gel, like something like right here, this is a great option, but you need something thicker like this VPS cloning gel that can stay on. And even still then, it can wash right off. But if you cut the sides of the stems, which we'll show in the demonstration shortly. And you really get it so you can get the cloning solution, the hormones within the cell a little bit more, the actual plant itself. You usually will still have some enough to get some roots going. But if you just do a little quick dip and put it in there, it'll drip right off.
But it's pretty much optional to go out and spend the additional money on, rooting hormone or aloe. Like you could just use straight water.
All sterilization
As long as the
technique.
temperature's there, then it should root. Enough air in there, enough water in there that's hitting against the roots, it should root without the hormone.
I think
take a
that's
day
the
or two
key.
longer or what?
Yeah, it'll take a little bit longer. And honestly, I notice when you're not utilizing the hormones, you can run into those pathogens a little easier. But, utilizing something like a mycorrhiza and bacteria or beneficial bacteria can help kind of combat that. Once you transplant and you're going into media, using something like Stash Blend will definitely help with that. You can utilize like mycos and azos for rolling your cut into, which is a mycorrhizal fungi, and that'll help you as well, which in the past I've used Great White is another one, but it's a little expensive, so it's hard. But using that can help. But again, if you're spraying up, it can fall right off and get in the mix. You got something that's granular, it can kind of gunk up in your pump. So oftentimes there's a liquid version, something else that you'd make. So what would be a prime example of a good liquid one? I think they have one through the same company for plant success, but it's Orca.
Okay.
So it's some sort of animal related thing. Sea animal.
I remember you using that.
Yeah, and so that's another alternative option. But Bubbleponics is another one too. If you don't want to get a pump, you can also just use something like air stones from a fish tank. Let them sit in there, bubble up and work, and it's similar to your hydroponic system for DWC. Now, getting the water to touch the roots may be a little different. You got to have it up a little higher and use a stronger air stone with a larger pump. But it's another easy DIY setup with a bucket. Make that yourself. I think for me the easiest way is cut them, put them into the plugs, use the clone dome, and I don't have any electrical based reliance. It's just a long day, as you can see.
So that's aeroponics, definitely one of the
Aeroponics and bubbleponics.
and bubbleponics. Yeah, but arguably the fastest way, to actually get the roots to show, and easiest way. Sunken-agi. I know there's plenty of easy ways. One of the easy ways that I have done it for many, many years is just stick it straight into the soil. You don't need anything at all. You can cut it right off the plant, bop right into the soil. Some people start in a solo cup or whatever size container you're looking for. Just cut it, dip it down directly in there, and it takes a lot longer to root. It'll take about 14 days or so to root. And one of the things that can really slow it down, and you kind of mentioned it towards the aeroponics, is the temperature. Same thing with soil. If you don't have a moist, not only just moist, but a temperature that's in between about 72 and 82 degrees Fahrenheit, the rooting is going to be really slow and it might not root at all.
Yeah.
And that's happened to me many, many times. A lot of people use a heat mat. ACMV makes a really, really great heat mat that you can get along with your clone dome, for example. Makes it easy to get into kind of that all-in-one kit. I think they also have a light that goes along with it as well.
The IOB light's perfect. It fits at the top of the propagation, the cloner itself. If it's perfect, it rests exactly what you need. Honestly, the amount of light you'll need with a clone, I'm glad that you bring that up, is way less.
Yep.
So you can utilize something like the ion beam setup and have it real low.
Yeah.
Real low, and then have it gradually go up higher to kind of harden your clone off so you can prepare it to transition into the veg space.
Yeah. Yeah, and when you're sticking it directly into that medium there, you could dip it into a rooting hormone, right? You could dip it into the powdered form. There's a liquid form. Rob showed up the cloning gel here by Ventana Plant Science. This is something that all three of us have been using for several months now. I think we had it for 6+ months using this stuff. Really, really good stuff. But that's optional. Again, you can just cut it straight from the plant, stick it directly into the medium, and then it will root. Now, what medium are we talking about here? Soil, bagged soil with some sort of nutrition already in it. That's your best bet. Now, if you're going to go the cocoa route, well, then nutrition's kind of a worry a little bit, right? So you want to be able to stick it in the root, but you got to also worry about that nutrition being in there as well for the plant to really start to grow after it roots.
That's the thing, too, is if you're going into an inert media, it's a little tougher transitioning versus something like, I'd say the aeroponics going into inert media is easier, in my opinion, because it's inert to inert, so then that way it's not like a shock to the roots. When you're going, for me in the past, if I get too big and hardy of roots in an aeroponic cloner or in any kind of cloner and I go right into a hot soil, it's a little bit of a rough transition. Versus when I put it into something like cocoa, I could really lowly feed. I mean, taper off the smallest amounts, a ppm of like 150, 200, like low, just to give it some food going in. So I think there's benefits to different mediums going in. You just have to know if one requires you to be Mother Nature or if one is already ready for you for the first 30 days, which oftentimes you will see with plenty of different soils. You know, give you 20, maybe 21 days is comfortable to say.
Yeah. The dragons.
There's a lot of dragons in Canada.
I want to play devil's
man.
avocado here for half a second because I got to be straight. I don't like rock wool cubes, and I would prefer if you guys never used them again.
Why?
Rockwool's not great for the earth to
That's
take it, you know.
It doesn't biodegrade. It's a horrible.
Orgata plugs are made for reusable.
Yes,
stuff.
yes. Grower's House has Ventana Plant Science has
Organic plugs.
Organic plugs. Smell like ass. If
Oh,
I'm gonna be nice,
but they work good for
these
me
are
for
great
clones,
Clones.
specifically seedlings. Chris has a little bit of stress on his. They weren't enough. They weren't
Nutrition.
robust for nutrition. Yeah, and I think that's where you need to make sure that you know what you're getting into. If you got a clone that can be in a medium right away or a container that has some food for you, you're starting off with something, but it doesn't mean that you're just good to go.
Yeah,
Now, organic pots.
I just want to make sure that we overlook those rock wool cubes a lot. They get used everywhere. They have little ones, they got big ones. You can buy a rock wool cube is this big.
Yeah.
That's right. I just it's something that's not talked about enough is that like when you are done with those and you throw your waste away, those don't go anywhere. Those sit at the top of the garbage pile or the heap forever. So just a small pet peeve of mine. I just think as growers, it's one of those things where it's like we just make it's like recycling. It's like if we just make that small change, we can have a huge impact. So sorry to all those rock wool companies out there, but
That is what it is. I mean, there's alternatives that you can put in there as well. Like I've seen people just cut
like peat. I use peat.
I was gonna say just use peat in there. I've seen people cut other pieces of reusable fabrics that can just leach through or the roots can go through. I mean, there's alternative methods for sure, but I just feel I don't anymore want to rely on an electrical device for my cloning. Aeroponic was cool, but because I'm starting now using the AC Infinity cloner initially, you know, I've got something as simple as a clone dome. I would rather transition into my soil that's already ready for, like, everything just more simple. You know, when I was going the Aeroponic cloner, I went into cocoa and I had to do more work initially. It's going to be for some people. They may want to go that route, but if you got more costs to get to that point, you need to consider that before you get too deep into it because it costs more and may take more time.
Yeah. Yep. It's a good thing to consider. I always think a rule of thumb is I should be able to take my pot, dump it in the backyard, and forget about it.
I agree.
Right. One thing, too, we kind of talked about the solutions. Benefits to both. There are your general, sorry if I may, there's your general liquid or your liquid-based gels for cloning, which work fantastic, great, because it's typically faster acting in hormones. But then you also have a powdered-based.
Is that aspirin?
Yeah, you'd think. This is a powdered-based rooting hormone. I actually, and take from this what you will, I actually just take my clones, I just undo this lid. I just take my clones and I just dip my clone inside. Don't care. The reason I would advise a powdered cloning gel a powdered cloning hormone over a gel is shelf life. I've had this for probably 10 years. And it's fine. It's fine. Just poke it in there, no big deal. Again, probably going to act fast. This is probably going to act faster and probably have more success. But the shelf life of a powdered rooting hormone is very important. And like I said, this is something that's been sitting on my shelf for 10 years. I use it when I need it. It is what it is. So save some money. Get what works for you. But if you're cloning a ton, I'd actually probably recommend you get a gel. If you're cloning as often as I am and you're going to use your hormone like 3 times a year, get a powder.
Yeah, if you're going to clone like B, definitely.
Yep.
Yeah, I have experience with all three of those. You know, the gel, a liquid, which I don't know if you focus enough, but there's a liquid form as well where it's, you know, it doesn't really stick to it as well as you would like.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you're dipping it in and out and then putting it into a medium, for example, if you're going that route, it just doesn't seem like it's, you know, potentially some of it's being removed on the soil as you're moving it down into the medium. So having a gel or a powder, it definitely helps, in my opinion, my experience. Go one of those routes versus just a straight up liquid.
So, P, maybe you want to grab that plant here and
I
let's
would love
take
to.
an idea.
Demonstration.
Let's
I'd
show
love
some ideal size cuts to take when we're going to make a clone.
This one's got a couple bumps and bruises on it.
She's a little rough, but let them know. Yeah, P is literally hands off on this one and just let it grow, let it grow, let it grow.
It's his stress test. This is a demonstration plant.
Yep. So here, what I oftentimes will do, if it's looking like this top area would be a clone I'd take. You know what I'm saying?
Can we see the top?
You see working through here?
Okay, we got the top on that angle.
So-
Perfect.
It may not be what P does, though. What would you do, P? WWPD?
We're going to see what P's going to
Well,
do.
I'm big on topping, as you guys know.
Yep.
No, I don't top at all. Generally speaking, at this point, I would top it, though, and I would take off a significant portion of this top because it's kind of gotten away, and I would take off probably the top 7 inches in hopes that I could possibly clone this top, but then I would encourage all this bottom growth to kind of sprout up over the top. So we're definitely going to do a topping, and hopefully we can capture that.
All right, so oftentimes what's cool with a plant, you can take this top area, and this could be your clone. Or you could take a bottom area right here, like this little side piece, which oftentimes won't amount to much when you look at your canopy. And I'd say, like, these two side pieces, this side piece, like, if you were just going hard, I'd look at these side branches as, am I going to bend my plant down to make an evil-ass canopy? An even canopy, or is it going to be a situation where you take it and you just tie it and apply it? You know what I'm saying? Sometimes people will leave those and let them grow out, but oftentimes for myself, I'd strip it and I'd dip it.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of talk over the years. I remember back in 2006, Jorge Cervantes' Grower's Bible. That one, he had mentioned within there that there's hormones are higher at the bottom part of the plant. Well, that's somewhat been debunked. This P calls
That's pretty smooth, boys. That's pretty smooth.
prones on the ground over there and gets
That's
across.
pretty smooth. They didn't even see me.
Good one. Different parts of the plant as far as where to take clones and the different hormone distribution in the plant and stuff like that. In his book back in 2016 or 2006, he mentions that the bottom branches are better to take clones off of
That they have
because
high probability
of
to clone the hormones or something? was
the
it?
hormones, the
Yeah.
higher hormones. That's since been kind of, I guess you could say, debunked. Towards the top, you could take
It's
clones off of
anecdotal.
any part of the plant and it'll root.
Now, I will say, when you look at something skinny like this, to get your roots actually coming out of the bottom so you could transplant, maybe it goes faster. But this big, thick, hardy one, you got to think about what you're starting with for a plant, and damn, is that a good start. In my opinion, like, that's some of the best ways. A lot of my buddies who've done cloning for not necessarily perpetual, kind of perpetual, but just to make that clone stay around and be big for their outdoor season, primarily, was to take a massive ass cut. Like these things being a foot long, and that's their clone. It just depends on the person and what you're looking for.
Should we take a cut, boys? You want to walk me through it? Want to walk them through this as I do it? I'll do a bottom, and then just for my own hypocrisy, I'll top it.
Yeah, that sounds good. And
There we go.
remember, pay attention to some of what we do here, because I'm going to ask some questions later. We don't have it on the screen, unfortunately, because we didn't have those things set up. Tried to. But I want you to pay attention, because maybe we'll talk about this
So,
later.
and if anyone has any questions, this is black sugar, compliments of Seedsman, if I'm not mistaken. Black sugar by Seedsman. So here I go.
Here I go. Here I go.
There we go. So you can use just a standard trimmers on that one. I know you got some blades out there as well to do some final cutting, some surgery after the fact.
So I'm going to trim it first because I want to see what I want to work for as a clone, and then I'll hone it in with a nice 45 degree cut afterward.
So behind the scenes would have been AC Infinity shears. They got great shears on their website, acinfinity.com. Discount code the stash 15. But
They're over there somewhere.
we came in here and set up a whole studio, and we literally jumped in. We as soon as we walked in, we did it. But they also have these ones over here,
There we go.
the biggies. Those are for when you're cutting your whole plant. Who did we just see have a harvest video recently? Oh, shout out Turpwander. He cut that big ass, thick ass plant with them little shears.
Oh yeah,
He needed these.
He needed
Turpwander, you
those.
needed these, brother. Look at that. So he ended
Alright.
up cutting off of this side here. Now this extra that's left here, you want to cut down to nothing. He's obviously hands are busy.
And we got a cup of water right
And we
there
have a
we
cup
can
of
put
water
it into.
waiting that no one did lemon tech in. So he's gonna put this here. Drop
Somebody
it.
swears by. Have you ever heard that you got to get it in that water as quickly as
You'll
possible?
get air bubbles in there,
because
brother.
of air bubbles, right?
Is that not true?
Man, it sounds like it, right? But
Wait a second. Is that not true? Because I legitimately believe that.
I thought so for the longest time. But I had like 15. I was just cleaning the plant up, and it was only after the fact that I was like, those are good cuts. I should take those as cuts. You know what? I'm going to take those as cuts. And this was like 30, 40, maybe an hour later after doing the work. And I took them and I turned them into clones. And guess what? They did pretty well. So I don't know.
Another cut right there.
Might be a validity to it.
Okay. Well, I'm glad you said that. I'm glad you said that because it does make sense, though, that over time, oxygen would get into that area and then possibly cause it to die. Because I always thought, like, if you snapped it, that's why you wanted to tape it. So oxygen didn't get in there and kill the stem.
And I think there is some validity to that, but it's like healing the wound. You know what I'm saying? You want to put a bandage over it. Total bro science. It'll be in my next book. But I think that there's definitely something to be said with putting it directly in water. I can't tell you anything guaranteed, but I know a lot of people will swear by willow water that they'll put it right into. Just regular tap water works just fine, honestly, to let it sit there.
Water, like aloe in the water as well.
Aloe too,
A little
yep.
mixture with aloe.
But like buddies of mine for years when we're handing cuts to each other, we just take a wet paper towel, you just keep it moist, and you wrap it in a wet paper towel. A lot of times they'll do a rubber band around it to keep it long term, and then put that in a bag.
Right.
So that works.
I've seen that.
Yep.
So he's cut 2 right now. He's
And
got one. This is about, I would say about 8 inches long, 10 inches long on this one. This one's maybe 10 or 11 inches long. And I guess length of cut is probably something we want to cover. I mean, how long do we want to go? How short do we want to go? Now, a lot of folks, I personally go around 6 inches. 6 inches, that's what I want to put into the medium there. Some people go down to 4 inches. I think that can be kind of small. But some people even go a little longer than that. I assume what P's going to do, and I'm not going to jump ahead here, but he could potentially shorten this up before he puts it into the medium or whatever he's going to do with it.
Well, and this is where the cloner that AC Infinity has is nice because the height. My old cloner that I had with the dome, it was too small. Having the
I try to keep the clones to the height of no higher than the dome I'm using. Try to cut it big and then trim it to the size as you need it. It's a lot easier to cut big than it is to cut small and hope you went big. So cut it a little bit bigger. Give yourself something to work with because I also like to shave. I don't know if you guys know that we're jumping ahead a little bit, but I like to shave the end of my clones as well.
Yeah, well, like usually, oftentimes the rule of thumb is to go at a 45-degree angle, cutting it down on the side, and shave it down a little bit, and that way you can dip it into the rooting hormones, and it gets into the actual plant
Right.
itself.
So let's go ahead. I actually want to top it too, because why not?
Yeah, I like it. Shout out to everybody in the chat too. We read the chat too much. Much love to you guys. Much love to everyone watching the replay as well. Hopefully you were in the comments section trying to win yourself one of these propagation. I call them the propagation station, but a propagation tent, because this thing's a game changer, baby. There's a top cut. Probably won't focus. Oh. All right, 45. I'm going to be like Wilson. Hey, neighbor, so you want to take good cuts, 45-degree angle on it. Then do a little scrape, and that goes into your rooting hormones.
Get that out of the way. Now we've got our cuts, 3 of them.
So
Okay.
3 cuts for 3 dudes. Here comes the blade. Now, in this case, you can use your knife or your scissors
100%.
to go on the side with your shears, but to get a real accurate side, using a blade's pretty nice.
I would have used a blade for the whole thing, to be honest with you, because it's a lot easier. I just use one piece. Use a blade, cut the piece off. Use the blade, cut the piece off. Shave it off with a blade. Is what it is. Blade,
Yes,
blade, blade,
indeed.
blade, blade. But here we are.
Well, and we're here as well. I don't know if you have one of the cubes. Probably not, so we can't show that as an example. Do you have one?
Like a Rockwell cube
Yeah.
or the? No, I don't use Rockwell.
Organic
I know.
plug.
You're
I
organic.
have. I believe I have Organi plugs.
Yeah.
You have one?
Yeah, bust
Yeah,
one
I
of those
should've
out.
grabbed-
All right.
should've grabbed
So
that
I want to
before
show a
stamping.
little thing too I do with those.
Yeah.
I put them upside down.
Okay.
Put my hole in there upside down. There's such a headache when you put them into the propagation setup itself. You're doing this cut and you're putting it into the actual rock wool or the medium, the thing that you're using. with these root riots or with the organic plugs, you can turn it upside down, poke a little hole in there with a knife or with some sort of a scissors or something, and then put it in there, and it works better because it fits easier in the bottom. Look at Pete's got a whole thing right here. Unopened.
There we go.
Dang it.
Fresh bag.
So we can take in the smell together.
Wafting in. And if you guys are liking these videos, man, do us a favor, hit the like button. It helps the algorithm. It helps YouTube know that you enjoy plant content. This is plant content for plant people.
And if you like seeing FTS in the coop, I want to hear it in the chat right now, baby. I want to see it in the chat right now. Do you like
I get a
FTS in the
heck yes?
coop? Hey, what do you think about us all hanging out in person? I absolutely love it myself.
This
Yeah,
is
me
the
too.
first highly educational show in person.
I know. That's
First
great.
time we ever did it.
All right.
Yep.
Get it.
Brace
Let her rip, brother.
yourselves.
Let her rip.
It's really that bad? No.
No, just a memory that it was.
There we go. So those fit perfectly in those cells, right?
Yep,
The
perfect.
six cells. Slides in there pretty nicely.
And so here's
And-
what I was talking about. You see how it goes this way? There's already a hole that's put in there, right in the top. What I do is I flip it around like this, so that way when it sits into that little cell, this is up. This is up essentially enough, maybe an inch, so you can pull it out of there properly. Otherwise, you got to use like a butter knife or your fingers. It's such a headache, man. I can't stand it. So
So personally, I like to when I clean up my tops, my clones, whether it's a top or whether it's the bottom, I like to leave only the very top portion on the plant. So I'll trim off all the bottom stems or the sucker leaves.
sucker leaves and side leaves and random stuff that shows no use and isn't going to be directly to your roots. A lot of this is we're just trying to get that base root system started up. And when you're cleaning up this top area, we're not trying to focus on more foliage growing. Did you cut yourself?
No.
This guy cut himself in the water. It's dangerous. And he made it, though. But I was worried about those Manitoba sharks. He just leaking blood. He's like, no, I didn't cut myself. So I'd say he's nitpicking at this point now. But it's cleaned up, and you see how naked it looks here. If you're seeing real time, it's stripped down. There was a lot removed from this. And by doing this, we're going to be able to focus most of those hormones towards the bottom of the plant. Instead of the upper growth, we want the bottom growth. In this case, it's not a as below, so is below. As above, so below. I can't even talk. It's you need to work. Damn, you go hard on the paint. Okay.
I know that's kind of hard to see how big it is. Cameras can be deceiving, that's for sure. It's probably about 8 inches long, and now he's starting to basically work.
You did too. Cut
take
yourself.
off the
You
outer
liar.
layer.
Oh no.
The outer layer of it. He's taking it off, and just to help with rooting. So taking that, and then at this point is when you would
You boys
dip
split it?
or roll in the powder. Or
Do you guys split yours? And
that's
do it?
another technique. You can split the end as well. So some people swear that helps with rooting. And P's going to do it right now. Perfect. Perfect.
So I'm gonna use the powder.
You're gonna dip it in that powder, and some people will take some of the powder out, put it into a different container in order to try to not cross-contaminate, contaminate the whole thing. But pigeons likes to get
you do it
away,
upside down?
likes to push it.
So
and get
this
away
is
with
what I
it.
do.
I missed that. Oh, okay.
Wasn't paying attention at all. We looked me right in the eyes.
Ooh, teamwork.
Boom. So now look at how that's looking like that. Now this can sit into your cloner, and about that much up top is still there. Now the big thing a lot of people mess up on is when you're cloning this bottom area, you don't want to oversaturate it, but you want to keep it moist. A lot of times people will oversaturate it, and that's where it becomes an issue. Do you have any times that you have oversaturated and still got roots out of it?
That's a good question. I'm pretty sure I have had it kind of bounce back and forth. The medium just tend to dry out because I did straighten soil, and then took a little while for it to root, and then it eventually did. And I thought it was because it was kind of oversaturated in the medium to begin, but eventually with some patience, adding in that heat helped dry it out, and then it was
Yeah.
able to root.
The heat is a huge one, man. If you're doing it just in the cells itself, sometimes you need to pull it out of there. You need to grab it, and you need to give it the good old squeeze. Just squeeze a little bit of that out of there. Now, there is a little bit of nutrition inside of these organic plugs, so you almost want to do it over top.
And that's why you don't want to use them for seedlings.
Seedlings, it's probably not the best idea. I think that honestly, it's because of how long it takes. That release of the food is already gone by the time it's grown that big, or it's too much in the plant. The seedling didn't like it, but it sounds like it was not enough. So I don't know.
Yeah, I noticed.
It's good. It's good.
You know me. I noticed that some folks thought I was being a little rough. I want you to know.
He grows like a dude who just got out of his long 8-hour factory job, busting his ass, and he doesn't have time for all this.
No time to finicky around with it. This plant is
working man weed, brother.
Is very hardy. It's gonna handle what you're gonna throw at it.
I'd call it
and
Jeff
I
hardy.
remember the very first time I cloned, I was very timid. I was afraid to remove the foliage, particularly the top from the plant. I was very worried. I want you to know you don't have to be worried. I got in there, I chopped it off, I scraped her down. That clone is going to have 100% success rate. I guarantee it. 14 days or less. I'm going to guarantee it's about 14 days. There's going to be roots. We'll do a check-in. Hey, 2 weeks from today. I'll give it my best damn effort to see if we survive. I kind of hold myself to account, aren't I?
Yeah.
Because I was going to let her die. But you know what? Here we go. I'll show you. I'll show
Let me
you.
get it in the water a little bit more.
Yeah, actually, now that we're going to let her survive, let's give her a chance here.
With that, though,
14 days.
The light. So
What
we
light?
talk about the ion beam side of things. That's it when it's being cloned. But transitioning into a grow, do you need a clone light? Do you need it to be blasting heavy? How much light does a clone even need?
None.
Next to no light. I mean, some people, once you get the roots established there, it's going to be beneficial to have the light on it. So right away, some people will leave it in dark for a day or two, and then they'll go ahead and add light to it. Once it starts to root, though, that's really when it really needs that light. So some people will just hit it with like 100 ppfd, roughly, 100, 200, 300 ppfd. You have people go after. But for the most part, you're not going to really, it's not in a situation to where the more light, the better, right? You really do need to keep it at the lower level light because it's kind of useless for you to really be blasting at that point.
That's exactly why I feel, when I first was doing, honestly, I didn't start using the cloner until I started using the ion beams because of my light situation, because I didn't want to have such heavy-ass lights, and I had no space for this long cylindrical thing to put my cloner in. But so I did a tall, skinny one, and it was just a headache. But that's the prime example why you want lights like the ion beams, because they're very, very custom to small introduction light to that plant, to the genetic, versus something that's going to be blasting it heavy. And you don't want it. What would be the point of having seedlings or clones and running the Evo 8? You want to transition into that properly. So I think having those set up can make it so you can gradually work your way into the actual growth process and kind of harden it off so it's ready to grow, and also not waste a bunch of time on electricity by doing that.
I personally, when I take some clones, don't even throw them in the tent. I'll just keep them on the side. Just keep
Right
them out
there.
of the way. Just right there. You see that on the table right there? That's fine. Actually, it's not. We'll get into that in a sec. But I just like to keep them outside of the tent, just off to the side. They'll do their own thing, not taking any light whatsoever, because they really don't need it. I do want to touch on what they do need.
Well, before we move on from
please,
light, one
please.
thing we will definitely want to discuss is light cycle, right?
Oh,
What light
yes.
cycle
Light
do you put
cycle.
them on?
12-12, right?
Actually, if you do that, you probably won't root. I've had that happen to me before where it just didn't root. And 18-6 is what I like to do. 24-0, a lot of people do. But yeah, some sort of vegetative light cycle is best in order to get these things to root and
Very good point.
continue to grow.
Very good point.
It's all about the vegetative time. We're not growing like fruits. We're not growing flowers, so we don't want flowering. That's a huge rule of thumb. Flowering is when we want flowers. Mandatory.
100%. So light cycle, 18-6, or 24 hours of light, just nothing less than 18 and I guess I shouldn't say that. Not 12 and 12. What do you think? What do you think?
I mean,
'Cause there is
I'm
probably
an 18
someone.
and 6 guy unless it's winter. If it's winter, I'm 24 hours for the temperature. That's literally the only reason I run 24 nowadays is the temperature.
I'm 24 all the time.
Yeah. But it makes sense temperature-wise. Oh, it's only right now
Yeah,
that
that's
it's
hot.
different. Yeah.
I'm still
The
lazy.
majority
but
of
yes.
there's all right.
Yep.
But majority of okay, I take back everything I said.
I'd love to know in the chat who's doing 18-6 light cycle, who's doing 24-0 light cycle, who's doing a 20 to 4 light cycle.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
one
yeah.
right there. I was
So,
waiting for something other than 18-6.
Let us
That's
know
what
in
I was looking
the comments because I
24.
feel like there's a bunch of different light cycles out there that people do successfully. So
Yeah, I got a
Love to
feeling
see
a
the
lot
balance
less
between the
people are doing 24 hours for sure. I think that would be the smarter option to not run your electrical bill 24 hours a
You'd
day.
be surprised how many people the logic, because it makes sense logically, is that more light, more plant.
Yeah, well, we know
Speed up the process.
We know that this plant is a type A plant, a type A in regards to how it receives its light cycle. Some plants need darkness. to veg. Cannabis does not. It does not need veg or darkness to veg.
It does not need veg.
It doesn't need the darkness.
Yeah.
So what does it need though? So for me,
TLC.
personally,
left
a little
eye,
love,
little chili.
a little love. For me, I have the most success when I'm trying to clone my plants when my heat is roughly in and around that 86, 87. Nice
Tropic.
warm hug. Yes. That's what I like to think of it as, that 87, 88. With the humidity, and this is why I'm in a dome, I like that up and around the 90%, 80, 90%.
Sweaty nasty.
Consistent in that dome. That's why, shout out to AC. They've got the dome that has the little twist tops on it that gives you a little circulation.
sides, yeah.
It's amazing how key that is, because without those, there's no air circulation. Maintaining 90% humidity is easy, but then it gets stale in there, and then it can cause more problems.
What about that propagation tent? I know you've been using it pretty heavy.
Oh, like the two we're giving away during the show at the end of the episode?
Oh,
There we go.
And
Talk
one in
about
the
that for a
comment
minute.
section for you watching back. Comment below, let us know.
let us know. Yeah.
So yeah, I've been using it a little bit here and there. I've got
Oh,
the ion
dude, it's
beam
my
lights.
life right now. I can't flower anything until I move. So it is my life at the moment.
It's real small, compact.
It's perfect, and you can use racks. You can stack it up stuff in there as well. And
Yep.
only thing I had an issue with is connecting my lights. It's a little bit more of a headache than what I would have liked, but it's because it's small. I need to put it on a damn table next time, and that'll work things out better for me. Instead, I'm on the ground looking up, trying to put these things in like I'm underneath a vehicle. So yeah, the ion beams, they have magnetic pieces, so they stick into there really easily. And P's actually, funny enough, he's flowering.
Yeah, it's not just a propagation tent for him. He's
Yeah.
proven it otherwise. He's
Yeah.
vegging it. He's got flower in, so he's got a
just- yeah.
nice little flowering plant.
Yeah,
in
you
there.
know
It's
what?
Pretty cool.
Hey, I wouldn't recommend. I'm not sitting. Like, I want it to be very clear that I wouldn't recommend
He's
somebody
doing it for an experiment.
flowers out in a propagation tent. You
With
you
ion
probably
beam
need-
lights.
with ion beam lights. Like, no, AC Infinity's not trying to tell you that they're gonna sell you flowering lights
In a
with these ion
propagation
beams in a
tent.
prop-
It's called
Okay,
propagation
so let's make
tent.
that very clear. I only did this because somebody in my comment section was like, "You're not gonna get anything more than basil in there, pigeons." And I
Some would
was
say
like,
basil.
hold my beer. Yes, I will. And yes, I am.
No,
So,
I've seen it in person.
it's happening. The
It
buds
blows
obviously
my mind that
aren't
there's a plant.
huge.
No, but it's a very
They're
healthy
potent,
plant. Yeah,
very
well,
healthy, very potent. I'm going to get some quality smoke off this,
Yeah.
whether it's going to bear me a lot or not. It's going to be quality.
Thank God for that trim bin. That is a trim bin cultivar right
That is
there.
a trim bin cultivar.
You're gonna have to have
yes.
that thing for all the shit you're collecting. You know what?
Peyote
First
Skittles.
trim bowl, then the trim bin.
Yep.
Because there's gonna be a lot of work for that one. That's not gonna just be a simple overnight one. Now, when we're getting our cultivars going and we're in this stage of talking about light and everything in our environment, the humidity and temperature oftentimes is a little bit more humid and a little bit more tropic than your average veg time. So it is advantageous in a perpetual grow, in my opinion, to use something like a 4x2 or a propagation tent to be able to separate that for your youngins to really push the limit and seedlings in and clones to get that humidity and temperature versus your regular veg space that you may want to slowly work into flower, so you're dropping that temperature and humidity just a little bit.
Got it. Yeah, and if you really want to get specifics on temperature, humidity, the ideal VPD range, we all go by. We had a separate conversation about this. The Pulse VPD charts. You can reference
Where's
that.
AC's VPD chart?
AC and Fade needs a VPD chart. Yeah, there we go.
Just Photoshop the pulse out of it and
That's what I said. I was gonna do Mr.
change the
Growitz
colors.
on there because he's the inventor, but then, I'm
Actually,
not good at
established.
Photoshop.
We already
We actually did establish that.
we established that on
I was the original inventor. And he
I-
stole this idea.
I
Whoa,
stole
whoa.
the idea from Rob.
I
Rob
walked-
invented VPD.
That's not true. I walked into Mr. Groat's room and I saw that right above his bed is a VPD chart where it reads perfectly exactly Mr. Groat's VPD chart.
Handmade
stole that
with-
chart from
painted with
Rob.
clay.
I
And he
don't
did.
know.
And that's
Stole
the
it from
thing. He
Rob.
stole
Rob
it from me.
invented
Mine is
VPD.
finger painted.
Moving forward,
I'm tired of
give
this
credit
stuff.
where credit is
Thank
due.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
No, but the VPD charts, I mean, that's certainly reference that. They have one for seedlings and clones. And you'll see exactly what Rob says, that it's going to call for a higher humidity. And it depends on what your temperature you're running at. So definitely reference those charts. Very beneficial.
Yeah, massively beneficial. And it's a major thing if you want to keep this plant alive, because you may have gotten roots and it may be established there, but if you want to keep that clone alive and thriving as we're moving it into the position of veg from propagation, these are important things to consider. It's not just going to be the same ride all the way through till you get to the end. You got to kind of work its way up.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? Having something like that propagation tent allows you to give yourself a humidity level that's going to be bearable in that tent and nowhere else. It is unrealistic for you to keep a 4x4 tent at 90% humidity for clones or seedlings. So having a propagation tent that is a much smaller, confined space that you can have at those temperatures and that level of moisture just makes it so easy. I mean, it takes no space.
And speaking of that, so for those of you who are listening, if you're in U.S. or Canada only, unfortunately, where did P take this clone? Which is the clone? Which one of these three? This is like a mix. Which one of these was the top?
The one that he worked at, the one that he hacked at was the top.
Yep. Which one was it?
Which one was it? Oh, that was the trivia?
This weed head.
Did I just roar in the trivia question?
Well, you might have given them the answer, but let's see.
Right,
Maybe
new question. I didn't know you. That's where you're going with it.
What strain did I?
Ooh, that's even better.
What strain is that
That's
plant
even better.
to which I cloned?
Somebody was gonna think just like you would have had it before I finished the sentence.
They're like, "Oh, I was about to type it."
What's the strain that was taken here?
Can you
What
name
is
the
strain?
cultivar?
We're gonna pick two of you in the chat. Two of you.
What
America or
is
Canada
the
to win propagation
cultivar?
tests.
If you can name the cultivar, you had to have been listening, boy.
And I'm gonna have Wink over there. Wink, can you see the
Because
chat?
I haven't been showing this one on. I haven't
I want
been
you to
showing
pick
this one
two
too
names, and you're gonna put them on. If you could have them pop up on the screen, so
Oh,
you can see the
shit.
name.
I got two myself.
I like that.
Boom, boom,
We'll give you enough time to figure it out. Do people remember?
Okay, a lot of listeners.
Winners being
you
picked
guys
right
listen.
now.
Ooh, lot who didn't.
Lot of didn't listeners.
So P has my phone, just so you guys know it's over there.
yeah, I've been typing for Rob. I keep saying P every time or at least the last time.
Okay, so you're like from
Gonna pull
P.
up the chat.
I'm like, hit that like. P.
P.
Because my phone's upstairs. Shout out to all 400 of you guys that are chilling here.
Beautiful,
We appreciate
thank you.
you
And
guys.
all 4 million who are watching this back. Thank
That's
all
right.
of you.
That's right. Appreciate you guys. We damn near died today, and
Oh
we're
my
very
gosh.
thankful to see 400 of you tuning in for this show.
It was to have a
It was
happy
wild.
to a concern to a, oh my God.
We're gonna die.
Yeah, like
The
for real.
literally, yep. It was literally okay, boys. We needed to make the mindset from leisure to survival
Yeah.
right now, and then it was like
I
really?
watch a lot of those shows,
Yeah.
so I kind of got
Okay.
excited. But then I'm like,
Okay.
fuck, boys, we have a show to get to.
Yeah,
Like this literally, this is gonna be one day. This will be in Weed Fest or in some sort of movie or some sort of thing. Like,
this is gonna be a video. This is gonna be a movie, bro.
dude. It was like somebody left a comment saying, "Oh, it's gonna be like fucking Without a Paddle with you guys doing
Movie
this, like,
without a paddle.
Nailed it. Nailed it.
And Wink
Yeah.
decided to not come. If he would have, he wouldn't be here today. So shout out to Wink for making an executive decision to stay back.
Yeah.
All right, so,
Lot of
we pick
listeners
one name, Wink, and it's somebody who picked it right. And so which genetic was it? We're gonna stop now. And we'll
It was
let them-
Black Sugar, baby. It was
Black
Black Sugar
Sugar.
by
Black
Seedsman.
Sugar.
Everyone nailed it. Every single person except for those that didn't nailed it.
Every person besides those who did
I
not
say that with great confidence
did really good.
because I saw.
Wink, who was our first person? We won't know. Ice Mike.
Ice
Okay,
Mike.
Ice Mike.
Congratulations.
That's compliments of Wink.
Compliments of Wink, Ice Mike.
Ice
Compliments
Mike.
of AC Infinity, selected by Wink.
That's
Reach
better
out
way
to
put it.
giveaways at acinfinity.com if you're in these states.
Yeah.
Or if you're in Canada. You just want yourself
Congratulations. That's
propagation.
awesome.
Thanks for
Yeah, you're
listening
gonna like
to
it.
us ramble on.
Dude,
You're gonna
I'm
like that
telling you,
time.
I had a cheap garbage can one, and I couldn't use any light in there without the top of it folding. Like, it was so bad, dude. It was embarrassingly bad. And I didn't have a metal top, so I couldn't do the magnetic pieces for the ion beams. Excuse me. And it was just literally a waste of space. I was thinking about doing some organies or something in there. And then, by the grace of God, I get a package from AC Infinity with a propagation tent. And I'm like, dude. What? Like, I literally messaged Sydney. I was like, this is amazing. Other than the fact I'm struggling setting it up because I'm dumb. It's just me.
Me too.
It's a me problem. This is
Double
amazing. Double dumb. You know, you can't get everything in life. I got decent hands.
Got looks, boy. I got looks.
I got hands.
Yep.
So that's what it is.
Together, we can do anything, bro.
Anything we want.
Best ventriloquists in the game.
My boy. What's the second person we got here, Wink?
Yo, can
Number
I pick
2.
one?
All right.
Can
P's
I?
gonna
Because
pick
I
one.
actually, this nailed it. I am certified old guy. Literally wrote down the words that I said. This is a black sugar compliments of Seedsman. So if I may
Perfectly
pick one, I see I am certified old guy. If you can reach
I
out to
am
giveaways
certified
at
old
Certified old guy. Congratulations.
Giveaways at aceinfinity.com.
Thank you. Yep. Thank you. Giveaways at aceinfinity.com.
Big-
Don't be spamming. Don't
Please
be
don't
taking
spam.
advantage. We know who you is.
Don't take advantage of it, guys. A screenshot showing that you were the person who won this as well, that it's your name. Again, we know who you are.
I see you, Jeff.
We see you. I see you, Jeff.
What's up, Bastro? Good to see everybody in the chat. Thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you. All 400s. Can you hit that like button for us,
Please do
guys?
that,
Please.
So,
we appreciate you.
wrapping up the cloning process of things.
Nailed it.
So we've got everything going with the clone. Now we're going to talk about food as we've transitioned that clone in. So we were talking very low, nothing when it was starting to root, but now it's rooted. Now we've worked our way in.
Yep.
We've put it into a
Yep.
media. Let's say I'm using my cocoa, soil, synthetic, organic, yada, 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 just like we're doing. What's your first go-to process of feeding once you're in the stage of kind of transitioning from that propagation phase to the clone that's going into veg?
So if I'm just taking a clone, sticking it directly into the medium, I'm usually putting it into like a bagged soil that has nutrition already in it. So you don't need to actually add in any additional nutrition for, the first 10, 14 days after it roots. And I'm usually at that point transplanting it. So I'm usually taking it.
It was a lot.
I'm usually then transplanting into a larger container which had more food into it. Now, if I'm going directly into cocoa, for example, hitting it about 200, 250 ppm of nutrition to begin, and usually falling off the charts that the nutrient company has for their nutrient lineup. Mixing that up and then having that 250, and then really once I get it out of there, it's just continue to go ppm up from there. Now, one thing I did want to mention that we didn't touch upon is, sure, you could do aeroponic cloning, bubble ponics. You can do plugs like we've showed here. We've got a couple that we haven't done anything yet with. Let's assume that one of them we're going to take and put it directly into a soil. We can actually leave one of them in that water for 14 days, and it'll actually root. So a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll change out the water once a day. And then over time, it will eventually root.
Oh,
right?
yeah. Dude,
So,
I did that on accident.
yeah, so just keeping it water only. Arguably, I guess that's the easiest way to go about it, right?
That's the easiest way,
It just
but
may
takes
take longer.
the longest.
Yeah.
Well, I think planting directly in the media, depending on your media, man, I've seen cocoa directly in cocoa go super fast, but I've seen directly in the organic soil take a little bit longer. The top looks yellowy and nasty before it really gets to the point of being a plant. And it's tough because, like, how do you know when to give up in that case? You can't see the roots at all. That's the reason why I like doing every other method, because I can see the roots. Yep. Now, with sitting in a cup, too, that method works really well and is very passive. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But don't leave a cut forever thinking that you're going to be leaving it forever, because, again, you've got pathogens and bacteria that's going to form in that water over time, especially as the temperature is rising. There's no airflow. There's no oxygen. You're looking at essentially just killing and putting a disease into that cut, and then trying to run with that. Basically, just give up with that one. Make a new cut, get a new plant, pop a new seed even at that point, in my opinion. But don't waste your time with a diseased cut, because I've been there too many times where I was desperate to keep a cut of the headbanger. Desperate. And I had maybe like 40 viable little tiny cuts, and I crammed them into a container like this. I had so many of them, and none of them were touching the damn water because there were so many of them. Dude, and there was one that kind of was, but it was curled up, and I'm like, I'm going to try it. And it was the worst plant. It took like months for it to become even somewhat of a viable plant. Don't do that.
Yeah.
3, 4 is the most, but look at it like this. If this cup
already
is sitting
falling
like
out.
this top piece is falling, and it's not in the water, and it's going to curl up and die. You don't want to do it. You got to stay on top of it.
Yeah, it'll eventually die off. I've cloned so many things over the years, and I've had success and failures and all that stuff. And I've had ones that took so long to root because I had a lack of heat. I've had some that I didn't actually root because I didn't have them on the right light cycle. I've had them didn't root because they, for whatever reason, left them in water. I didn't change out the water. So don't assume that you're good to go unless you kind of see those roots, and you once you start to get the roots, you can feel a little bit more confident.
You're on the way.
Because it could be a little tricky. The heat thing, I think, is kind of the biggest thing. Is like if there's one takeaway, it's like monitor the temperature in the medium or the temperature of the water, because that has a huge, huge impact on your success.
Yeah, the bottom is important. The top of the plant isn't quite as important, but the base and where it's coming from, it's everything in that time period. And propagation is a seriously advantageous thing for those who want a perpetual grow, or those who want to keep a genetic around, those who are pheno hunting, those who are breeding. I mean, it's a no-brainer.
I was playing with the chat, so I'm not totally sure if you guys mentioned the hardening off.
Yeah, talked about it a couple times. Just
I figured.
getting your plant ready to transition from propagation.
Serious, yeah, 100% serious. Damn it. Okay, I was entertaining the chat.
It's good. It's all right.
I was
Questions
trying to
in the
fight
chat?
the dragon. There's a dragon over here, and he's trying to take over, and I wasn't going to let him. Stay back.
He doesn't have fire. In Canada, they just blow smoke. It's crazy. It's weird how that works. So where we're going to leave that is in the comment section. Let us know what kind of method that you clone with and what works best, because we're always open to feedback. We're always open to ideas, but there's a lot of newer growers who are getting into this, and they're going to be looking in the comment section. And one of you is going to win a propagation tent. One of you.
Let's go.
Let us know below in the comment section.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Thanks for tuning in today. Thanks for letting
Thanks
us
for
be
the
late for a little
patience.
bit. We made it. Made an epi out of it. So
Yes, we
it's
did.
It was
stuff,
a good one, man. It was
There's
a good
so
one.
much to cloning, and I want to know, what did we miss? Did we miss anything? Is there any other ways to clone that we should have covered? Let us know down in the comment section. Maybe we'll touch back on this topic in a later episode.
Yeah, absolutely, man. As we're going through the next cycle and we're running things through to maybe our harvest, perpetual grows are a real thing. So we could talk about what to do next. And this could be a further dive into the cloning and propagation.
100%. And once you finish cloning and you want to really hunker down on your feeding regimen, consider Stash Blend.
Oh,
Stash Blend,
100%, brother.
Establishing a good root zone, getting the
Mycorrhiza
microbes.
fungi, bacteria.
Nailed it. It's almost like we're on the same wavelength. Rob and I are on the same cycle.
And silica. We didn't really talk about the benefit
baby.
of silica.
Huge. So Stash Blend will play a huge impact on that. So if you're interested, stashblend.com. Check it out. I think you guys will love it. It's got everything you need in there. So
Don't forget also any AC Affinity equipment. You can use discount code TheStash15.
Yep.
So use it at checkout, and you get a little discount on there. They got trimmers, clone domes. We talked about propagation tents. They've got the ion beam. So
All
many
sorts of
different
tools
products are going
for
to help you with
propagation.
the cloning process. ACinfinity.com or on Amazon, and use the Stash 15 code, and that'll get you a few bucks off.
Well,
Hell yeah.
It looks like we were at the Mario Raceway, so we're going to be
Yeah.
signing off here. Much love to everybody.
We're gonna be
see you
live
guys in the
tomorrow.
next one.
we're going to be live tomorrow.
Tea with P? You're going to be
Tea with
live?
P
Tomorrow,
tomorrow.
9 p.m. We're not hitting the river, so we're going to be live 9 p.m. Central. If you guys are
We're not in the river.
if you guys are around for that, we got a special presentation that'll
Yep,
be
I'm
starting at
gonna
9
watch.
p.m. Central Standard. Tea with P.
Yes.
Check that out. That's on my channel, guys. Huge shout out to you guys. Huge shout out to AC Infinity for putting the three of us on and allowing us to sit here and chat with you while we enjoy the
This is a
best of
special
life.
episode. Us in person, man. This whole
In
series may have
person.
one more of
Pretty
this.
sweet.
Maybe.
Pretty sweet.
But
go.
wow, dude.
Wow.
It's not often. Stay
Awesome.
tuned for the Canadian
time to trip,
series
boys.
we have, boys. It is time.
Let's
We have a
go.
trip to go on.
We're going to go
Much
on a
love,
trip. We're hitting the
everybody.
lake.
We're hitting the lake. Powers in, boys. Powers in.
Oh!
Peace out, yo.
Peace, everyone.
Peace.